So hello third grade, today we are going to glaze our animal sculpture. And since it's a sculpture in the round meant to be viewed from all sides, we're going to paint all sides except for the bottom that touches the table. We can't glaze the bottom that touches the table because if we do, when I refire this, it will fuse to my kiln, and the only way to get it out of the kiln would be to use a hammer and chisel and break it out of there. So we don't want to glaze the bottom part, the parts that touch the table. So my two finished pieces, you can see the bottom of this is not glazed. These are the parts that touch the table. So I did not glaze those, but I did glaze around the edges of the legs, just not the parts that touch. And then with my fish, the same thing. You can see the bottom of my fish is not glazed because I did not want it to fuse to the kiln. So when you glaze, you want to cover your sculpture evenly and thickly. And you want to let it dry, and it dries really fast, and then you want to put a second coat on. Here's an example of half done well and half done wrong. So this side is the side that that a dry paintbrush was used and 2 or 3 coats were covered. So this same color red was glazed on, left to dry, then glazed a second time with that red, and glazed a third time with that red. Same with the yellow and the white, the black and the gray. Over here, it was just one coat, and the paintbrush had a lot of water in it. So this is what it looks like if you have a lot of water in your paintbrush or you don't put enough coats of glaze onto your animal. So obviously this side looks much better and shinier and nicer. So this is the side that you want to try to complete. You also want to make sure your paintbrush is dry. So you want that look on the whole entire animal. So you're going to get a tray of glaze, and most of the glazes are the color that you see. If I have a glaze that's a different color than what it looks like, sometimes blues look pinkish, I will let you know. So the first thing you'll do is take the lids off the glazes and look for the color that you want to use. I do not want any rainbow animals, so you're going to choose one color to color your animal. If you have eyes or teeth or something other than that, a beak or a nose, that can be a different color. But the majority or the body of your animal should be one color. So for instance, my pig was glazed all in pink, and then I added black for the dots in the eyes. The white part is just not glazed because the clay is already white. See, the clay is already white, so I don't need to glaze that. I just leave that unglazed, and I just did the black dots in the eyes. Same for my goldfish. My goldfish, I used the orange glaze, and the white is for the eyes is left unglazed, and then 2 black dots. So I have a bear here. I think I'm going to use this rust color, and you're just going to take a dry paintbrush and get some of that color on. And there's nothing that says you have to do realistic colors. If you want to do a purple panda bear, you can do a purple panda bear. And you're just going to brush this on. Now, if you created texture like I did for fur, you've got to get in those cracks and crevices. So you take the tip of your paintbrush and kind of dab, dab, dab it in there. Now, you're not jabbing it in there because that's tearing up my paintbrush. You're just dabbing the tip of it in there to get in those cracks and crevices. Okay, I'm not going to make you continue to watch me glaze. I'm going to come back to you when I have my first layer of rust color on. Okay, so now I have my bear completely glazed in the rust color where I want the rust to be. So I left the nose and the eyes unglazed because I'm going to add black there. And I want this eye to be a little bit more round, so I'm going to add just a touch more. And once I'm finished with the rust, for now, I'm going to pull my paintbrush and get as much of that glaze off my paintbrush and put it onto my bear. So now I'm going to use a smaller paintbrush to do the details of the nose and the eye. So I'm going to get some black glaze, and I'm going to glaze the nose very carefully, and I want to cover up as much of the white as I can. And whenever you're doing something that's 3D, you kind of have to pick it up and look at it from all angles to make sure you've got all that covered up, all that white area. Alright, and I want to do 2 coats of both colors. So I'm going to do another coat of my rust, and I just noticed I missed a spot right here because I hadn't picked it up and looked at it from that angle. So I'm going to do another coat of my rust, and I probably should have did the second coat of my rust first before I did my black. That's going to be easier. So I would suggest pick your main color, do 2 or 3 coats of that main color if you have time, and then go back and add those details. But you got to keep an eye on the time. If you're getting short on time, you need to stop that main color and get those details done. So now I'm going to do another coat of my bear in the rust and the black, because the rust is already dry, because it dries really fast, and the black is starting to dry. By the time I'm done with my rust, I'll do a second coat of my black, and then you're going to bring this to me. We're going to put it on the cart. I'll refire it, and you're going to rinse your paintbrushes out really, really good and put them bristle side up in the orange cup, and you'll go back, and at the end of art, we'll put the lids back on all the glazes nice and tight. The sponges are there for you to dry your paintbrush off. So if I were to rinse this off really good, then I would need to dry it off before I moved to another color if I was going to use this same paintbrush. But I'm going to use the big paintbrush for the rust and the small paintbrush for the black detail. So you're going to cover up, put the lids on all these nice and tight, and we'll clean up.